Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 427. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the sensei of the whatnot segulent, and the Duke of You Know.
How's it going, eh?
We're going to be, of course, talking about Convergence. Really excited because this episode in particular, we talk about the Convergence event, but also some of our favorites, the ending of the weekly books. We kind of speculate about some of what Convergence might mean for certain people. We have a nice casual comic chat as well. So be sure to take a look at our show notes. We get pretty specific on the titles that we talk about, and we don't want to spoil anything for you. But Jim and I end up riffing after the Convergence chat about some really interesting titles that we enjoyed right before the Convergence event started kicking off. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network, the League of Comic Book Podcasts, the InfiniteComics.com podcast partnership. Sponsoring us this episode is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Jim, DCB Service has some new bundles. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
Oh, they've got some wonderful bundles and a couple different breaking down this time. You know, they've got some of the new series at 55%, another bundle of new series at 65%. We've got the returning series bundle of 50% and a returning series bundle Joker variant cover 45% off. They're doing some really cool bundling. So if you don't want to get all the new bundles or all the new series, you can actually see what is actually inside these bundles, the different titles that they're offering. It's really cool.
You know, over at InStockTrades.com, Jim, they have those deals of the week that I'm always talking about, those 50% off. There's some real cool DC ones. First one is the classic Deathstroke the Terminator by Marv Wolfman. And this trade paperback volume 1 is 50% off, only $9.99. Orion by Walter Simonson. I have not read this. I was into those New Gods omnibuses, the collected editions they were doing, the Fourth World, the Jack Kirby Fourth World omnibuses. I picked up all of those and I read those. And that was really my exposure to Kirby's work, reading all of it. I've never read, I might have read an issue here or there of Walter Simonson's work on Orion, but this is the omnibus. It's 50% off, only $37.50. I don't have that. I'm going to be grabbing that one. I'm actually very interested in reading that book. Sensation Comics, are you picking up the digital of that, Jim?
Actually, I've been getting the paper of it.
Okay. The trade paperback, the first trade paperback that's out, it's 50% off, only $7.49. This is the beauty about InStockTrades.com. Whatever your budget, there's something for you. You can pick up a lot of reading for under $10. I mean, it's really cool that they have so many options there. And they always have deals of the week that are 50% off, so I urge you to go over every week and see if there's some stuff that you want to load up on. It's great if you're on a budget and you're like, I want to read more, I can't afford it. And, where do I go to get trades and things like that? A lot of times this 50% off stuff, you only find at conventions. That's where you're usually limited to 50% off deals that consistently of current material. InStockTrades.com's offering that every week over on their site. But their deals on everything else are amazing as well. Everything's like, 42% off, sometimes 35% off, 25% off. It depends on the book. But oh my gosh. They've got the Miracle Man premiere hardcover. I'm a huge Miracle Man fan. Volume 3 Olympus. That's 42% off, only $23.19. I mean, great deals on amazing things over there. The Epic Star Wars Legends collection, 42% off, only $20.29. That's InStockTrades.com. That's your place to get deals. And I want to thank them and DCBService.com for continuing to support our show. Sensei, before we're whisked off to a faraway planet named Telos, can you please tell us what kind of a podcast we are?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in depth into plot lines, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on today's show. So, if you ever read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Let's talk some comics.
Carter Hall, scientific genius from a far-off world, flies into action as Hawkman.
Jim, I want to shout out a Kickstarter that I came across. Long-time listeners of the show will know that I'm a big fan of the artwork of Steve Bryant. He's doing a Kickstarter with Jason Millett called Undead or Alive Volume 1. I'm going to put links into the show notes, so if you're interested in this book, please check it out. I'm a big fan of Steve's work, so, we're not sponsored by anything for this. I just happen to really like it. It's an 80-page full-color trade paperback. Supernatural bounty hunters investigate the mysterious swamp creature of Gerber's Crossing, Louisiana. There's something terrorizing the swamp outside of Gerber's Crossing. Nearly a dozen people are missing, the most famous one being Ariel Moon, a comic book writer, pop culture icon, and practicing magician. What mysteries lurk in the spooky Louisiana parish, and can the Undead or Alive agency put an end to the disappearances? Originally launched as a backup feature in Image Comics' Hoax Hunters, Undead or Alive follows a group of paranormal bounty hunters, all while paying homage to the monster comics of the past. The beauty of this one is click on the link and check it out, because you can actually see preview pages, which is always great. They also have one of the Kickstarter videos talking about the project and how it came to Genesis. But I'm a big fan of Steve's work. I don't shout out enough, and I want to try to do it periodically. Kickstarter projects that I'm interested in, that I've been enjoying. I tend to browse around a lot. I miss things. Sometimes I rely on people that I follow, where somebody will follow something cool that I enjoy on Kickstarter and doing that. But I'm a big fan of crowdfunding as a way to get unique and interesting comic projects out there and into the public. And Steve Bryant's work is amazing. It's Athena Voltaire, for any of you that are fans of Athena Voltaire, or seen that before. If you're never read Athena Voltaire, that book was a pulp adventure fest, and it just really brought that whole thing back to life with a modern flair. And that's what Steve does, and I'm excited to see his work with Jason Millett in this. They take something that is a classic concept, modernize it today while not losing that unique quality that made it special in the past, and that's an interesting balance to try and do that and make it work. But when a creator is able to do that, it's something special. So Steve's work's like that. So I'm excited for this project and jump on it just because of the fact that I haven't had a bad experience with his work yet. He's one of those that I sought a commission for. Actually, I've got an artwork that I was hanging in my office from Steve. He did a Batman and Batgirl for me a few years ago that I love, and I have it hanging in my office too. So I encourage you to support Steve's work. I think he's really cool.
Yeah, he's a neat guy as well as talented. So he's one of those cool people that also has skills. So it's kind of like a double plus reason to to back the guy, because of it's one, you're going to get a good story, but two, he's a nice guy. So let's look out for nice people.
That's always a nice pairing too, when it's somebody who's nice and they actually do cool things. So, Jim, Convergence. Convergence is here. We're going to start talking about Convergence number 0. This is our event. It's one of those things. Do you walk into events with like a preconceived notion of what you think it should be? Do you walk in with a lot of worries, especially when it's something like this that there's going to be some changes afterwards? Or do you walk in with an excitement? Like, what was your experience like grabbing the first issue of Convergence?
See, all of the above. With this thing going into it, man, I had this notion in my head what I thought it was going to be, and I was like, do we want to do another massive universe-changing event and this? I don't know. And then, plus there is there's a level, just of excitement because I do like a cool story. So it was one of those weird things going into this that I was thinking one thing, and I think it's going to be something completely different, and I don't know how. It's weird because I thought in my head this was going to be basically a complete rewarping of the universe, and it's not. It's really, a multiverse smackdown, where we're getting these multiverses duking it out and hashing it out, and we're going to get an addition to our universe, not a complete re-altering of the universe. I was thinking how things went with the new DCU, we are going to get another one of those. Well, we're not getting one of those. There's going to be changes, but it's not going to be every single thing is changing. Just this piece here, or maybe this piece here. So it's one of those. Once I saw that, I'm like, oh, okay, that calmed down some of the fears, because some of the fears I had for thinking a complete universe revamp. That I had fears of that. Well, I'm not going to have that. So now I'm looking at, okay, what kind of story are we going to get? Where is this going to go? So that's, so I'm now back to an excitement and, what are we going to get?
Yeah, that's where I'm at. And I mean, I'm always kind of like that with these events in general, but this is not what I expected. Like, I knew it was supposed to be, bringing together. I thought it was going to be like World Against World, and like, if World A beats World B, that world survives. I didn't realize that there can be only one. I didn't know they were going all Highlander with this, which is a big difference from what I was thinking it was going to be. I'm glad that we're talking about this with 2 issues under our belt, because I loved Zero as far as it kind of introducing. Zero is kind of like the Telos origin story, whereas issue 1 is more of a, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And I really like both. I think that both are necessary to really get into the story. I'm glad that Zero was actually like what a true Zero issue should be. It takes place during Superman Doomsday, where we see Clark from our world, from the New 52 world, basically coming out here and encountering Brainiac. And through that, he gets taken to a world where he sees the alternate versions of himself. And I love seeing like the Death of Superman one, the Earth 2 one back again. I like seeing, things from Kingdom Come and just, various iterations, and seeing him kind of realizing that, this is really the path that's destined for him, to be one of these, at the end of their life, Supermans. I like that they use Superman for this, because I think so often now when I think of the multiverse, I think of so many Batmen. Because there's been so many of them. I'm glad that they spotlighted Superman just for a twist. Don't get me wrong. I love seeing 70 Batmen. But it's nice to remember that the multiverse has multiple Supermen as well. Throughout the history, there have been, revamps and reusings of him. And with him being, there's 2 big guys in the DC universe. There's Superman and Batman. And don't get me wrong, I'm a Wonder Woman fan too, and I agree she's part of the Trinity and all that. But, if you look at historically the way the stories have gone, it's Superman and Batman have had so many iterations and so many things told about them. There's so many of the characters in the DC universe that deserve to be in that same status as well. And I would make arguments for Wonder Woman, The Flash, Green Lantern, and keep, on and on, Aquaman. I think the whole Justice League. But those are the big 2 that have had so many of these iterations before, and they tend to always go back to. And I'm glad that they used Superman for this. I just thought it was cool.
Yeah. Again, you think about just one who could survive this and who could actually deal with this. And I like the fact that how they did tie it into the story, where when he, at the end of Doomsday, he flew through the black hole. Well, this is the journey through the black hole. This is what shows us what actually happened through that when he went through there. And it was funny because I liked how at the end of it, they're saying, he was saying that he's not going to remember what happened. And if you remember back when end of Doomsday, when he arrived back on Earth, he didn't completely know what happened. So there was that confusion level that he had. So I was again, I liked seeing that they kept all the pieces together, kept the continuity flowing in that way. Plus, we still got the story of what is going on with Convergence and where is, what's this origin of this new do planet. You call him a villain? Do you call him a narrator? Who is he? What is he? How do you classify him?
Catalyst. He's a catalyst. I mean,
catalyst, yeah.
Because Telos isn't watching. He's not like the Watcher. He's actually closer to Mogo, but an evil Mogo.
The referee.
Uneducated, misguided. Misguided. I would say misguided. Telos is a planet that's become sentient, trying to fumble its way through. Thinks that he understands his master's vision, which this is not Brainiac's vision. Brainiac's vision was to catalog and keep for knowledge, but Brainiac wasn't looking for them to battle out to be only one. He was experimenting, though, so I would agree that Telos is right in doing experiments. But, at least, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, I don't think this is Brainiac's vision. I think Telos is this sentient infant that has unlimited power. He's almost like, like when Robin Williams was Jack or, that type of thing. He's all of a sudden this little kid that's been made big, and just doesn't have the backing to make real decisions with the power that he has. These are toys.
Q.
Yes.
He's a young Q is what he is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm drawing a blank on the name of the character from the original series that had that ended up actually being the first introduction of Q. Even though they didn't call him Q, they called him something else, and I can't.
Charlie X.
Yeah.
Wasn't that Charlie X? You're talking about the kid, Charlie?
Well, he's not a kid. It wasn't a kid. He was an adult.
Oh,
it was like the Squire. He called himself the Squire of something, yada yada.
Yes.
Because he had a very flamboyant style to him, and this and that, and and at the end of the episode, it was like the parents showed up, and there were those giant voices, and even Spock asked him, "How do we document this?" And he's like, "Well, as a child." And it was, but later on,
Squire of Gothos.
Thank you, Square of Gothos. So and that's what he was, just a young Q. And that's kind of how I see Telos, that he is just this sentient planet who thinks he knows what he's doing, and he's wrong. Because Brainiac's not about the battle royal. Brainiac was about studying, experimenting, figuring things out, and also just collecting and cataloging. He was taking cultures at the end of their life and holding on to them. Just putting the city in the bottle and just saying, okay, what happens here? And it's, so I like the fact that, he's kind of a little confused and he's a little misunderstood and he doesn't know what he's doing exactly. And that leaves for a possibility of him to learn. And that's what I'm hoping we get out of this, is that this sentient planet learns. And that's why we don't just get there can be only one. We get maybe a person from this universe and a person from this universe and someone from this universe surviving. And we get a melting pot type of deal, as opposed to just the end of life as we know it.
How has that evolved, though? I guess what I'm saying is, so now you're taking people and plucking them from, and first of all, I want that. Like when you were saying that, I'm not saying you're wrong for wanting that. I think that's cool. But I think it's, for the creature, it's still the same problem, because now what you've done is taken this people from the last remaining vestiges of its civilization.
Right. I'm thinking by evolving, I'm thinking he's not just out for the death of this universe, He's kind of taking the Brainiac, the Brainiac mission of cataloging, of preserving, and taking, okay, now I'm not just going to preserve, I'm going to let them thrive. I'm going to let them survive.
Yeah, see, it's funny. I think there's it's nice that Telos feels truly alien. Like it can't really comprehend what people are all about, why they do the things they do, why they have the morals they do, why they have the communities they do. For as different as these Elseworlds universe are, they've got certain moral qualities in common. There's a certain civilization that's in common to all of them. Even though their worlds are very different, and you've got a vampire world, you've got a gaslight world, you've got, all those types of things. True. But even so, they still live in a society. They live in a community. Now, here's the thing. With the fact that, like, Superman in this one, we're seeing that he has no city. And because he has no city, Telos has a major issue with that, because it doesn't fit into the scheme. In the beginning, and I know I'm jumping to this, in the beginning of issue 1, we see the same thing with the Earth 2 heroes. Does that mean they're ineligible?
Well, with Superman, he was banished from the planet.
Mm-hmm.
But with the Earth 2 heroes, he took it as, oh, okay, this is the sign I've been waiting for. Ding, 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 ding. Let's get ready to rumble. So I think he's basically, Telos is just making this up as he's going along. Again, he's a child. He doesn't completely comprehend what's going on. So he's like, let's go with this one. Let's change the rules and go with this one. He's not as set, locked, this is what I'm doing. Because he initially couldn't handle with Superman. He was trying to put him into, go into this world. Well, I got plenty of troubles. It's like, that's not my world. This is not my world. And he kept, basically badgering Telos, and every time he threw something at him, it's Superman, so he's able to punch through it and fight through it and work through it. And he frustrated him. And what does he do? He takes that giant kind of like tornado type thing and chucks him into space. And of course, Soup flies home from that, uses that to fly home. But it's showing just that kind of that irrational level of, he's sentient, he's intelligent, but he's not, he still doesn't have complete cognitive abilities. And I'd like to, I'm hoping we're going to see some of the more strategery related heroes take advantage of that. Like Batman could school this guy, and I'd love to see the guy with no powers be the one to really school this guy and teach him a lesson, and maybe, either, trick him or educate him or something. Because I always loved seeing, any bat, deal with, superpowered creatures and go, it's not just about the powers. It's about, intelligence. It's about
bring. Oh, Jim, I'm sorry. It's Telos on the phone. He basically said you're a failed experiment now after he heard the word strategery.
I was wondering when that was going to come through.
I liked seeing all the different Brainiacs. Like, not the different Brainiacs in the New 52, the different Brainiacs throughout the history of comics. Just the different variations from, way back to the original Brainiac, straight on through, different robot versions and things like that they've done with Brainiac. I was glad to see that Telos added the sense that Brainiac is not a part of the New 52 exclusively. Brainiac is a part of the multiverse, and there's been different faces that Brainiac has worn, different agents that Brainiac has sent into the world that are a part of the true Brainiac. And I like that concept. I like that all of a sudden this is the connecting thread now, that every story that you read before matters. They've all been a part of this. So if you liked the Silver Age was a part of this. If you liked the Golden Age was a part of this. Bronze Age, Modern Age, however you want to term them. All of those stories were a part of this. So there's a connecting thread in this event to all of these stories and the New 52, and that's really smart. I think sometimes you go out of your way to revamp and you try to throw old stories out the window. And I guess I'm not against relaunches. I like relaunches, reboots, and things like that. But when you have a universe that has a history of having a multiverse, why on earth wouldn't you keep those stories connected on some level? I thought Flashpoint did that in the way that story went. It was a shift, not an ending. And there's a difference between the two. And that shift meant that those stories from before happened. This reinforces that. And I'm actually really enjoying that. Zero got me giddy because I'm like, well, this basically just explained every story I ever read and how it's connected to the current DC universe. That's important. I mean, and that's all I need. I'm easy when it comes to continuity. Like, I'm aware that there's no way this continuity should ever make sense. If you're going all the way back to the Golden Age Superman, that all shouldn't be able to be connected just because of the nature of how long this has been going on and how many stories. But when you do stuff like this, now all of a sudden, it was kind of like the way that Jeff Johns fixed the Hawkman debacle. Where he kind of made, with the reincarnation, he made all of the stories interconnect. So that way, any Hawkman stories that you liked happened. I think you can do that in a way where you are embracing any member of your fan base from the past and make them a part of the new storytelling by saying, hey, what you read mattered, and here's where. Done. Now let's go on. And that's really all it takes. Sometimes you can get too bogged down in nonsense, and you overcomplicate something that really should just be simple. I'm content with this explanation. It really works for me. I'm like, all right, good. Everything happened again. Let's move along. I liked what they did with Superman. It was kind of a way to frame in. You don't want to do this issue just about Telos, because Telos isn't the most exciting dude by himself. I love the concept. I actually really like the character. But Telos needs to be framed by his interactions with characters that are more dynamic. Because Telos is emotionless. He basically is like Spock on an incredibly heavy dose of sleeping pills. There is, like, I love, and don't get me wrong, I love Spock, so this isn't a negative Spock thing. But, Spock is not, in some of his portrayals, and it's one of the things I loved about Leonard Nimoy's playing of him, when Spock is stoic, the best bits with him are when he's playing off of somebody else. That whole Pon farr stuff that was happening where it was just the Vulcans there, you needed to move that along a little bit so that way, because it was a very cold segment and supposed to be emotionless. It's a purging of emotions. Telos makes that look like a dance party. So you need a Superman, and I'm complimenting the writing from this, understanding we needed Superman in this as a way to connect this to the New 52. This part happened during Doomed. Superman's not aware of it because of what Telos did. We're going to use this as a narrative to explain who Telos is, what Telos' connection is to Brainiac, how, this affects the current universe, how it affects the rest of the universes. And without Brainiac there to keep things in check, Telos thinks he's continuing Brainiac's mission. That's cool. I really like how this is framed. So it's a really interesting, cool story. Zero issue out of the starting gate I thought was really interesting. And it set the stage. I'm with you. This did not happen the way that I thought it was going to. And I quite like that it didn't happen the way that I thought it was going to.
Yeah, I definitely. It's funny because with multiple read throughs, I enjoyed it more. I can remember that first read through. I was like, "What's going on now? Wait, huh?" Yeah, and I had to go back through and immediately reread it again, and just take my time with it and just kind of like get the groove and the understanding of it for me to really appreciate it. And one of the things that I kind of noticed, during my art read through was Superman's beard. Because you see at the very beginning of the issue, he's clean shaven. By the end, he's got that scruff coming in, and it's kind of interesting how long he was actually on this planet, how long he was actually going. And there are multiple times that Telos just alluded to, hey, time doesn't matter here. Like you've tried that before, 32 times to be exact. Maybe I'll let you remember this. Maybe I'll let you remember this one time so it's futile. Every time with the different attempts he made to escape. So I love the fact that that's the way they showed us that he was there multiple, for at least a couple days, if not, a couple weeks. So he had some time there, and I thought that was a kind of a neat thing that, I will admit was kind of more or less lost on me, on my first read through that, when I really started focusing on the visual stuff, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I like that. Cause, we saw that when he arrived, in the regular universe, he had that full beard, on. So it was like kind of a neat thing showing the initial growth of that.
That's why, especially when you've got a great artist on something, an artist is a really good storyteller. It's really worth it to go back and reread multiple times because you can really catch things that you didn't catch the first time through. Because I'm totally with you. I did not catch that the first time through. I think I was so focused on trying to figure out who Mr. Life of the Party was that, and what his deal was. Is it Brainiac? What was going on that I didn't get any of that until like multiple read throughs. Yeah. You're right. And that's a really key point. And am I right? He's like as dry as can be. Telos, like he really needs, am I right? He needs the other characters in order to make him work. And I think he does.
Well, I don't know. I think I could hang with him. I think he'd be pretty cool to hang out with, Mm-hmm. He's completely, if you're on his planet, he can completely create anything you need. So that's kind of a neat thing to have around someone. And what he needs is he needs a sensei to guide him.
Okay. Let me put it to you this way. I'm pitching this as a maxi series. Dissertations of Telos. Are you in?
Oh, I'll pass on that. In a heartbeat.
It'll have art. I mean, it's a comic.
Yeah, I'll pass on that. But no, he does need people to play off him.
Yes.
We saw that in 0 and in 1. You need him because, like in 0 issue, I loved just seeing Soup just go full and load on him.
Right.
He didn't have to pull his punches. He didn't have to pull his blasts. He could. He Soup was able to recognize, hey, this is somebody I can unload on. And you see him just blasting, and just the head just fragments and it turns into dirt because that's what he is. He's a planet, and he's just doing massive hits. But it was also it wasn't just about hit. Just what Soup wasn't just trying to solve this by hitting. He was using that as it was a stick and move type of thing. Granted, he was sticking and moving, and his opponent was the planet he was on, so he had to keep moving and keep working at it and trying to figure out what's going on. But it was kind of neat seeing Soup just go off and unload. But in the end, it actually worked towards his advantage, part of his plan to get off the planet. By constantly doing it, he really annoyed and aggravated Telos to the point where, as I said, like a angry child, he kicked him off the planet, which is what Soup wanted. He wanted to get back to his Earth.
Now, I don't know for sure. Like I'm looking at issue 1 now, and I don't know for sure, but I think that Injustice that they keep referring to is the world from Injustice: Gods Among Us. In that, do you know the premise of that game, the story behind that game? It's a digital comic. The idea is that Lois Lane was killed. Superman snaps from that and decides that it's time to. It's basically what if Superman had a reason to take over and to become like a ruler to become in charge. It's one of the reasons why you don't want Superman to be in charge. You don't want him to want to be in charge, I guess, is what I should say, of the entire world, to be like the ruler and kind of keeping order. But it's interesting how the heroes become fractured in that world and divided, where some of them side with Superman and see the point of being more militant, whereas the others are kind of like, no freedom, you can't take my freedom. So it was, I'm guessing,
William Wallace on him, huh?
Yeah. So I'm guessing that was, the premise behind that. So I'm glad that they used that. And actually, let me go ahead and do the creative team, if I could, of issue 1. It's Jeff King and Scott Lobdell are the writers. Carlos Jason, and it's Pagulayan, Paz, on pencils and inks, and I don't want to butcher it. Aspen MLT's Jason Starr with Peter Steigerwald on colors. Travis Lanham, letters. Ivan Race, Joe Prado, and Peter Steigerwald on the cover. Brittany Holzer, Michael Krager, assistant editors. Marie Javins is the editor, and special thanks to Joey Cavalieri and David Pina. Superman created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster by special arrangement with the Jerry Siegel family. And apologies for any name butchery, because it was quite the team that put this together. I really enjoyed this issue, and I was glad to have it as the follow-up to what was going on. And I think it served a purpose, first of all, to bring in, the video game universe, which is what I'm guessing that totally was in the beginning. As a way to kind of frame, you're this failed experiment, you're this thing gone wrong, and it's time to purge that and clean up. Telos is basically the living planet now that's kind of had enough of some of the residents and wants his perception of Brainiac's experiment to continue. So he's basically the scientist who does not view these as living, intelligent, sentient beings that are equals. They are lesser life forms that are basically meant to be used for evolving to some greater purpose. I'm oversimplifying what this is, but I really like that the premise here is only the strong shall survive, and I want to see what that looks like. It's really cool how this is going to go. Now, with the fact that Telos wants a city to survive, he wants to transport that city back to the world. That's why I'm thinking Earth 2 in this, while I agree they're the catalyst, isn't a part of this. I'm not saying that they're not going to be a part of the event. I don't mean it that way. What I mean is those characters don't have a city, so I don't know that Telos is considering them contenders, so to speak. I think you need to bring your own city in order to have a ticket to get into this fight. I might be wrong. We'll see what happens in the other issues, but that's how I'm reading it. Here's why I kind of hope they're not in it. Because I don't want to know who wins. If they're in and they're a contender, and this really is going to go down to there can be only one, they have a book after this. So, I kind of hope they're just bystanders. I think I'm choosing to believe that they're closer to what our New 52 Superman is than the other contenders in this particular battle. Either way, I'm intrigued by the whole premise. I'm glad to see characters that I liked before. I love the Injustice game, but I also, besides the Injustice game, I've been loving the comic. So if that is what they're doing here, the Injustice Gods Among Us, I'm glad they brought it in. I'm glad that they didn't leave the video game properties outside of all this, because it was kind of a cool thing to do.
Even though it only lasted a very short period, but you gotta admit, this was a beautiful death. This was one of those wonderful art usage of the artwork and just the creative team firing on all cylinders, and you get just beautiful chaos, beautiful destruction, just with the lava flowing through, and just this massive cityscape where you see it just completely being destroyed. You sit there and you spend just a little while just staring at the images, going, "Man, that looks cool." Especially, I love the lava flowing through, because in my simple head, I would say it's just, a couple colors. But you look at just how the details of the different shades of the oranges, the different shades of reds, and how you got the more solid pieces of molten lava compared to the pure liquid pieces, and where it's, some parts are hotter than others, and some it's part of the earth crust, and you see it just, flowing through this Gotham. So once again, another bad thing that happens to Gotham, but you through this city, and you're just like, man, that's kind of cool.
then we flash to our Earth 2 heroes popping in, which winds up being a surprise for Telos, the fact that they're there. But I love that it's Thomas Wayne and Dick Grayson coming in. I'm starting to think, dude, the new Batman is, if it's not Thomas Wayne, it's going to be Dick Grayson.
Oh, I definitely think it's going to be Dick Grayson.
Is that who you think? I think you may have mentioned that on one of the episodes previously. I for some reason, I've got that in my head, and maybe it was from you. So I'm excited for that, though. I think this was the capstone for me, where he came through together with them. I'm like, oh, we're seeing more interactions with these two, and I'd kind of like to see how this all plays out. But I found I was comforted to see these characters.
Yeah, especially how, the weekly ended where they were zapped by the Omega beams. Uh-huh. And I like the fact that they even acknowledged that they were dead. They were being blasted and, just completely vaporized by the Omega beams, and then poof, they're here. What the heck happened? And it was one of those neat, comic book explanations where they're saved at the last minute, but, I'm like, cool. They're still alive. It's, the characters aren't gone yet. They got a chance.
I love how this all turns out with, the whole idea that Dick Grayson's a war correspondent. He's on the sidelines, and you can imagine that war correspondents in that time probably didn't always have favorable things to say about the heroes, especially one that was bitter over, certain happenings in their lives. So the Flash really takes issue with that. Hey, it's real easy for you to critique us, buddy. We were on the firing line. I gave up my mom. I understand loss. It's the debate is real interesting between them over Barbara Gordon and over the mom. And I love the fact that this matters because these are characters we've been reading. And I'm a great fan of the classic Justice Society of America. They're really important to me. I don't look at these characters as a replacement for that. I look at them as their own thing now. They're just as valid for me. If they released a new Justice Society of America book, first of all, I'd be giddy as can be with the classic Justice Society, but I would still want to read these characters. They've become just as valid to me in their own way. So it's an interesting distinction there. I don't consider them a replacement, but they've certainly been well crafted enough to be their own thing, and they're valid to me.
Oh, God, yeah, big time. This is... throughout that, I kept rooting for them to win and kept rooting for them to somehow survive. And, when they introduced, the Helix and all that, I'm like, okay, here's how they can keep going and how they can keep surviving. And then when in the book, when these guys get vaporized, I'm like, oh, no, wait. Oh, okay, continue on. Okay, continuing in Convergence. All right, let's see what happens. And then you see them pop up here. And it was kind of again, I like the familiarity they immediately had with each other, especially Grayson and Wayne, because you think about the end of that series, those two started kind of working together a little bit. Not major, but just it started. And then here it continues. And then, as this is going on, it's continuing even more, which always applies to the fact that Dick Grayson and, Bruce Wayne, this is Thomas, but it's still... that personality vibe where they can fit together, and who knows what's going to happen. I'm really happy to see these guys are alive and seeing them glad they're going on. Now, what actually is going to happen to them? That's going to be the big question.
I'm rooting for Thomas Wayne to live.
I'd love for that. I don't see it happening, but I'd love for that to happen.
I would too. I'm very into the idea of Thomas Wayne still existing after all of this because I really like him as a character.
And here's one of the things I think we could see. We could see these heroes, these people, being the one to educate Telos, being the one to kind of enlighten him, saying, hey, this is, what you're doing is wrong here. Because we see them kind of confront him and talk to him, and just, they're the initial people there because they're the people without a city. So maybe they're going to be the ones who are going to be able to kind of, get his ear. And Thomas... he's a little bit on the crazy side, but I think he's one of those characters that throughout this process has grown as a human, because when he first started, he was all Batman. There was no Thomas Wayne left. Well, by the end of it now, Thomas Wayne is coming out, especially with he and Helena, just some of their interactions and just, some of the dealings with, this is the last of his family. This is his, and just some of those wonderful conversations the two of them had where they each see Bruce in each other. And, and so we're seeing his emotional side. I'm wondering if he's going to be able to reach, once again, the non-powered guy able to reach, this omnipotent being.
Did you see that they're releasing a new prestige format series that's going to be going alongside of this? It's going to be during the second month, because you'll probably like that. It's more focused on Telos.
Ooh.
Did you see it?
No, I didn't.
I'll read you the tag. Do you want me to read you the tagline?
Yeah.
Okay. He hates bridges, but now he needs to build bridges. Jim Seguin is educating Telos. Sorry.
Oh, that's good. Okay. And he could be like, what's that? What? I didn't see what I missed, man. I was getting mad at myself because I missed something.
You feel like this is like multiple times throughout this. You're like, and maybe he'll educate Telos, but if not, maybe we can get them to educate Telos. And somebody just needs to sit down and educate Telos.
Yeah, man. Hey, Bridgeman could do it.
Educating Telos.
Nice.
An ABC after school special. I was glad to see Yolanda Montez because do you know she in the classic Earth 2 story was the second Wildcat.
Yeah, yeah.
And I like how there's a kind of evolution where some of the power of the red sticks and she has claws now. So I'm hoping maybe spinning out of this, she becomes the new Wildcat. Like, she doesn't have all the powers of the red, but, she has some form of cat-like powers now. Something that would put her into that second Wildcat role. I'd love to see that.
Oh, she definitely could be. And it was funny because I initially said it'd be neat to see Dick Grayson as, the Wildcat, with him and, because he had that whole stuff going on, banter with him and Ted Grant and all that stuff. But I would rather see her, for exactly what you're saying with, that'd be great for her to slip into the role, especially the cat-like, and him don on the cape and cowl and become the new Batman.
Yeah, it's funny how throughout this issue, the early parts of it, for as interested as I was in Telos and what was going on behind the scenes, it's really important that when you're doing an event like this, you ground people in the characters that they're enjoying right now. They did that in the Zero issue by having Superman in it. They did it in this one by having so much focus on forwarding the story of the Earth 2 characters and their appearance here. Then jumping to the part where, okay, now we get the meat and potatoes. This is what's happening to the other cities. But because they don't have a city, it becomes a problem. But they get to see what it looks like. It was really cool to see all that play out. And talk about the artwork. I really enjoyed the artwork here. It was great to see them reacting to this horrifying dome building around them. Because the Brainiac thing should be a scary thing. The fact that you're being encapsulated in this dome. You're not going to be able to... If there's probably one major fear I have, it's confinement. The idea of, kind of a claustrophobic kind of thing. And when they do this Brainiac thing right, it brings that sense of, I'm going to be trapped in here forever. I liked Stephen King's book, Under the Dome, a great deal. I liked the TV series. But this, in the DC universe now, I like that in recent years they've added more of a horror aspect to the whole Brainiac concept. And this Telos expansion of it has just added to that sense of, this is creepy. It's really, really creepy, especially when you think about the fact that he looks at them as a scientific experiment. He does not care for them in any way, shape, or form. That twist and change to all of this, I think, is a natural evolution to the fact that it's an alien character. He looks at us as insects. I really like the horror aspect that it adds to this. I love the sense of when you got characters as powerful as Val-Zod and, that they're Superman and Green Lantern and the Flash, their powers are slowly being drained. You got, their Batman there. And even so, that's all going on. Telos just, this whole process has just put them in a place where they're trapped. Now he's going to have a chat with them. Why are you here? Where is your city? This is unacceptable. And it doesn't compute to him. That's why I don't know what role they're going to play in this. I can't help but wonder, maybe you're right to a certain extent. They're going to be the agents of somehow forwarding this story to a different sort of conclusion than Telos would have wanted. I don't think they're going to be in the battles, though. I think they're going to be in the main Convergence story. I think the battles are going to be between the other cities and they're not going to be a part of those battles, if I'm making sense.
No, I agree with you. And I think what we're going to see is the Convergence battles will be in the Convergence series. While the limited series stuff is telling you about the different worlds. I don't think we're going to see the battles in those. I think those are about the universes that are trapped under the bubble.
Well, more than one universe is in each issue.
Right.
So, like, each one of those issues, like Nightwing and Oracle that's coming up, is also going to have... They're going to be the previous universe, Nightwing and Oracle, but they're going to be met by the Flashpoint Hawkman and Hawkgirl.
Right.
So, they're going to be... I'm assuming they're not going to meet for tea and crumpets.
Well, you never know. Maybe. It'd be nice if, have a little spot of tea and just, chat and discuss things.
Before battle?
Right.
Yeah. Before we kill you for all.
Yeah. I kill you.
Let us meet and compare recipes. All right.
Well, I could just see Hawkman going, man, this is a really nice scone you have here. What do you got in it? Oh, there's a little touch of cinnamon, some nutmeg. Oh, nutmeg. Didn't see that coming.
Enough nutmeg. I don't know. I actually, you know what I really like? Here's the funny part. I like that we don't know what those issues are.
Right.
I like that we know certain characters are going to be lead characters and then certain storylines that they're going to be advancing from the past, but we don't really know what those issues are. I want to discover them as I read them. And I'm excited. Like, this event, like, where are you? Here's where I'm at right now. After issues 0 and 1, I'm all in. I'm really excited to read the tie-ins. I'm really excited to read more issues of this. I was excited before, but now that it's actually here and I'm in the midst of it, that's always different for me. Now that I've got, like, the premise of the story under my belt, I'm not quite there. We're kind of debating a lot of things and thinking through a lot of things here. This is the part that I like. I like when we start thinking it through and, like, now I want more stories. I'm becoming like a sponge. Where are you at?
Well, I'm definitely excited about it and curious and just, anticipating of it. It's funny. I've calmed dramatically down on any anxiousness I had. I'm now looking forward to the story, what's going to be told. Because as I said, I was worried this was going to be a full-on universal type reboot, and it's not. Someone's going to come back into the world, someone's going to survive, there's going to be some changes, but it's not, as a general rule, going to be a complete full-on reboot. So I was like, as soon as I realized that, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. What's going to be the story? What am I going to get? And it's the anticipation of seeing some of these universes that I have no idea who they are. I've heard people talk about them, so I'm kind of curious. I'm like, oh, okay, let's see what this is like. The concept of the battle, there can be only one. I don't know how excited I am about that as per se the seeing universes interact. That has me more excited than seeing, the two universes going at each other. Because
Kingdom Come Superman versus Red Sun Superman. Who wins?
Ooh.
Now, let me ask you again. Are you still not excited about some of these battles? Come on, this is a geek fest.
Hold on. Let me rephrase my statement. I do want to see some bloodbath. I do want to see some battle. But I am more curious to see how these characters are going to react and interact and stuff like that. Like we joked around about the tea and crumpets. I would actually like to see Hawkman, Hawkgirl, Nightwing, and Oracle try to work together to figure this out. But try to figure out a way to come up with a plan B. Like, you either fight or die. Well, no, here's plan C because we're heroes. We're going to come up with something different. And I'd like to see some of the universes try that.
Yes.
Where we're not going to play your game. We're going to do it our way. And see what happens that way. And that's the kind of stuff. Now, some of the fights I am looking forward to. I do want to see Kingdom Come Red Sun Superman. And I'm going to put my money on Red Sun Superman.
I don't know that that's going to be a thing. I'm just throwing it out there as a possibility because those are two worlds that are in this. My point is, first of all, I'm going to agree with everything you just said. I would like to see the moral dilemma. To me, there's a missed opportunity if you don't see some of these tie-in issues deal with that. So, like, would it be great if certain heroes and certain villains and certain, in between kind of go, well, I don't want to play this game, and, we're better than this. I'd rather die fighting. I'd rather die, rebelling against this. Here's the problem, though. Tellus is going to know about that.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see how all that plays out. I'm intrigued by it, though. I want to see that there's going to be some people that don't play along. And I want to see what leads them to not play along. And I agree with you 100% on that. I think that's interesting. I think that makes this story intriguing. There's a missed opportunity if you don't have at least some of that going through this, where somebody's going to kind of go, well, I'm not going to do this. Here's what happens. If your world becomes at risk, then does that change your mind? And if not, how do your people react to that? And how do they react to you? Are they going to agree?
Right. It reminds me back when we had the back in the 80s with the Marvel versus DC crossover big thing they had where the different heroes were fighting, and we had like the battles of, Wolverine versus Lobo, and it was Captain America versus Batman, and a couple of, just reminds me of that, type of thing. And those were cool stories and I liked seeing it, but some of the stuff that I liked more was the fact that when Batman and Captain America didn't actually fight, they chose not to, or the fact that Aquaman won basically because he cheated and used the whale to drop on top of Namor, or Quicksilver won because the Flash was busy rescuing people and Quicksilver did the sucker punch. So those were, it was neat seeing the fight, but just that little kind of interactions were some of the stuff I liked more, and just the overall. I want to see an overall story. I don't want to just see a battle royal. I want to see a story along with it. So, and I think we're going to get that, just because they're starting to lay groundwork of what's going to happen here. But, and especially since we have all these tie-in issues. So we're going to get an overarching storyline, and that's what I'm curious about. So that's what I really mean by, I'm saying, I'm not as excited about or, anticipating of the battles themselves. I want the overarching story that happens around the battles.
Yeah. I want all of it. I want it to go in a lot of different directions. I want to see that. It's actually, I think that's why I'm saying I'm so much more excited about the tie-ins now, because I think there's an opportunity to tell stories that advance those characters because we haven't seen them in a while. So it'll be nice to see those characters have more continuity, if that makes sense. And another story to them, even if it's a closure story, whatever it looks like. I'm anxious to see that because we're going to see like Red Robin and Batgirl Stephanie Brown and Cassandra Cain teaming up together. So it's going to be that stuff. I want to see that again. I think that's really cool. We're going to see Nightwing and Oracle back together again, but we're going to see, I'm sure, a progression in the story of those characters because we're going to see them beyond what we saw them in before, whatever that was. And that's going to go through all the Elseworlds characters, the characters before Crisis on Infinite Earths, those type of things. I want to see all that. That's fun to revisit that stuff. So, yay, cool that we're going to see all that. But I also want to see everything you're talking about, the moral dilemmas that come with this and how everyone reacts. And it would be a crying shame if everything goes the same with everybody. I don't see that being the case. There's too many combustibles here for it to go clean in a certain direction. I think every story is going to be unique, and I can't wait to see what it looks like. That's where the tie-ins now have me more interested, because I want to see the side stories relating to this, because that's the part I think we're going to see more of. How are these characters reacting to this?
Yeah. It's it's funny, as the more answers we get, the more questions we have.
Well, how long do you think some of them have been living in the bubbles?
I'm going to assume a while. Mm-hmm. Because you think about time doesn't matter in this universe. Time doesn't matter on this planet, sort of, but it does actually. We see that time does happen because we saw that with Superman when the beard started growing, but. When they show this couple of the scenes inside the bubble with the citizens, when he first starts talking to them, they're going about looks kind of like a normal day, but who knows what life is like in the bubble? Maybe they do know what's going on. Maybe there's resources cut off, because you think about it, if a city is completely cut off, then how do you get power? How do you get clean water? How do you get food? How do you get you've got so much. Just the city alone can't survive itself. You have outside infrastructures, especially like power and water. Things like, just the general living stuff is going to happen unless Telos is providing all of that as well.
What if he's providing everything but shaving implements? Like, and what if that's our way to tell how long they've been there? So, like, we know the Superman of Rip Van Winkle world will be the one that's, like, the oldest. And, like, you know, the other ones, you know, it's like if you've got just a little bit of stubble, you're a newbie to the whole concept. And, you know, here's the question. Do you fight as well with a long beard?
Well, you know what? You kind of get, you know, when you got that beard going, you can kind of get that craziness, you know, because you get, you know, you look at a guy with a big scraggly beard, you got a little bit of a, whoa, okay, this dude's on the edge. You can actually use that to your advantage. Whereas you got some guy who's clean face, baby face, you're thinking, you know, what's this dude know? But you look at the dude who's been around for a while. Yeah, I'm talking, he's got the hint of gray, but not full on, you know, gray. So he's still got some youth to him, but he's got the length. So you know, okay, he's been in this world a while. He's been fighting, like, think of Walking Dead. Rick Grimes, the full-on beard with that crazy look in his eye versus Rick Grimes, clean-shaven. Hi, guys, how you doing? Which one are you going to be more worried about? I'm worried about full beard, crazy-looking, you know, crazy-eyed Rick Grimes as opposed to clean-cut, you know, clean-shaven Rick.
Okay, I'm going to throw another one at you, though. Ragdoll. Ragdoll full beard, Ragdoll clean-shaven. That lanky dude. You take that mask off and you see that face without anything hiding it. I'm sorry, I'm going with Ragdoll being scarier than bearded Ragdoll.
Well,
bearded
Ragdoll's just pure scary.
Bearded Ragdoll's going to look almost civilized. Sorry, I took us off on a weird tangent about beards.
Yes.
You know what I'd like to see, though, in some of these issues is a sense of how long they've been under their various domes. Because I would imagine for different worlds, seeing as they're almost from different universes and different continuities, some of them, you know, some world had to be the first. And maybe that world's no longer with us. But out of these worlds, one of them had to have been trapped longer than the others. I don't think they were all captured at the same time.
In his big montage, you know, monologue that he has, he talks about, you know, some of you came to me at a time of infinite crisis. Others were brought here in the final moments of their 0 hour, whether it was a flashpoint for a time that never was or a kingdom that will never come. So we definitely know if we're going through the different timelines that have occurred in the DC universe, that would say, in my head, I would say some of those people have been here longer.
But you're right, the time passage would be different, but there has to be some. Yeah. I want to see what that looks like. I really do. Yeah. And I want to know if they were aware that they were in the dome. I would assume, right?
I'm going to assume they were. And, you know, and he even had another line he has in there. I've been the air you breathe and the water you drink. So there's something else. So there is an infrastructure for them. You know, so I'm assuming they can see the big dome overhead, because when he started forming the big dome around Earth 2 people, they immediately saw it and they started fighting. Whereas with these, when they came in with the city, you know, they came in under the dome. You know, because you think about it, all the other cities were brought here by Brainiac. It was Telos who brought Earth 2, and he messed up because he didn't bring a city with them. He didn't do it right. He's not Brainiac. He didn't pull it at the exact point in time. He only got part of it. He only got the people out.
Now, here's the interesting part with the Earth 2 characters. They aren't being allowed of freedom. They're being, basically in that dome substance, they're being captured in it. Yeah. And being held down by it. To bear witness, perhaps?
Yeah. They're in cocoon, the liquid metal cocoon type things in his main base of operations. That's why I'm like, these are the ones who are going to be able to get to him. These are the ones who are going to be able to talk to him and maybe talk him through it and maybe spare some lives. Just let him know, hey, dude, you're messed up here.
Hi, I'm Telos. I see you. Gucci goo.
Talk about freaky.
Yeah.
You know, that I think would be really, if all of a sudden your sky just completely changed and it's now a grid work with some weird looking dude up there.
And he really has a great bedside manner. So
yeah.
It's really great to see the different worlds. I'm really excited to see the different ones play out in this. I wonder how... See, woof, it's a lot of characters.
Yeah, man. A lot of the different universes, and you know, again, which ones are going to really throw down? Because you know, we know it's not all of the heroes from that universe. There's only select heroes from that universe. But we're seeing like on the one image we're seeing Asbats, gray-haired, the Parallax, Hal Jordan, Hook Hand, and Steel. But are all four of them in that world, or only one of them in that world? Because all of those four working together, that's a pretty formidable combination.
Here's the funny part, though. Deny me, your people will be destroyed. Disobey me, your cities will be crushed in my hand. Dare to circumvent these conflicts in any way, and the citizens of every city will pay the price. So he's basically laying down the law. There is no room to make common cause among you, no quarter given. Only one city will survive this day. All other worlds will finally know the dark embrace of oblivion. So he's basically saying, go ahead, team up. I'll wipe out your city.
Yeah, that kind of
wait, here's this. Go ahead, team up, and I'll punish all of you.
Yeah, so that's the interesting one.
So now you're the guy that goes, you're the Jim of a different Earth, and I'm kind of like, well, Jim and I get along. Let's team up and buddy up. We're not going to do that. Because we do that, we're now going to be responsible for everybody getting hurt because of that.
Well, I'll tell you I'll team up with you, and then I'll stab you in the back because I listen to the rules. Sorry, pal. And when I team up with Norge from another,
you don't understand. Here's the funny part: you're going to be waiting to do that to me, and I'm going to hit you with a Buick because we're not going to get to the hello part. 1 point. Beep, beep.
Look, Hawkman. Beep, beep. Kneecap him.
Beep, beep. I don't know. I really like that speech because it sets... Here's the part. I don't think the speech means that we won't see people trying to circumvent, but I think it's going to lessen the amount of people circumventing because of it. But I think what we're going to see is more of the moral outrage at having to cross those lines. What does that mean to sacrifice that? It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I love seeing all those Supermen at the end.
Yeah.
Right from 1 million straight on through to Kingdom Come to just the various Earths. And, I don't know. I can't wait to see how this plays out. This was a great setup because it took something that, and I really think I needed 0 and 1. I enjoyed 0. I thought it told a real good origin of Telos. But I needed issue number 1 to really give me the meat and potatoes of what are we doing here? Now I get it.
Yeah.
And I'm very interested.
Hey, question for you.
Okay.
On the page, it has his big speech where he's laying out the rules of battle. Mm-hmm. And you got all those different Earths. Mm-hmm. Which Earth? I got an Earth there that I don't know which Earth it is.
Okay.
It's at the very bottom. It's the different looking Superman, different looking Batman. I guess that's a Robin, kind of like with a
1 million. 1 million. What? DC 1 million.
That's 1 million? Oh, mm-hmm. Okay.
The Hour Man from 1 million actually stuck around in our world for a while in that storyline. But that was, that's the DC 1 million.
Cool.
Cool stuff.
Yeah. Again, just trying to figure out who's going to survive. And that's kind of an interesting... I'm hoping they swerve us. That there's not just one city that survives. I'm hoping in the end something else. They go with something else that we don't see. They go with Plan C. Somehow figure that out. And I don't know how. In my head right now, I don't know how they're going to do it. Mm-hmm. But that's what I'm kind of hoping for.
Yeah, I don't know what I want out of this. And part of me likes your idea that somehow there's multiple people that survive. It's going to be interesting. Let me ask you this. How do you feel about this event? This is an event, and it's the first time in a while I remember an event where the main universe isn't involved. Like, there's no representative from the New 52 here. Unless you count the Earth 2 characters, but they're their own world. That's not the New 52. It is, but it's not. It's not the main, the quote unquote main Earth. So it's weird. I kind of like it, but on one hand, I'm like, I wonder what kind of. I'm trying to figure out how to word this. What kind of story are we really going to get? Because it is just a multiverse SmackDown. Well, but we know one world survives this, right? Somebody gets a new world out of this. I'm assuming.
So that's what he's promising. That whichever one survives will get a chance to thrive. Now, will they get a chance to thrive on Earth? Will they get a chance to thrive on Telos World?
Mm-hmm.
That's he said you get a chance to survive while everyone else goes to oblivion. He's like, all your worlds are dead. You're the last survivors of it. You fail, you lose the fight. You're going to join your world, and you'll be completely destroyed. You'll be dead. But he's not saying I'm going to put you back on your Earth. I'm going to put you back on this Earth. He's just saying you're going to survive. So maybe the winner is going to get to survive on the crazy sentient planet. Now they're alive, but they're like, hey, gee, really? Thanks, pal.
See, I'm wondering if this is how the Earth 2 people get the new planet.
Could be.
You know what? Here's what I don't want, and this is where I'm with you. I have no problem if that's how that happens, because it would actually make sense with where it looks like their next series is going to be. But I'm with you. I don't want it to just be that. Like, I want to see echoes of this still existing.
Yeah.
Afterwards. So I'm very curious to see where this is going to go. I'm interested. They got me hooked at this point. I'm interested enough in the story. Like, I'm excited for next week. I'm excited for the tie-ins. I'm excited to start reading those. That's something that they've got me hooked into. I want to see what the tie-ins look like for this, and what the premises of them. It's one of the things. After we're done recording, I'm gonna edit this show and get it ready to go out. But then I'm excited to do some reading to start seeing what's this all about, and kind of see these books. I know we got a Gail Simone book that's going to be in there, so I'm excited about that. The Nightwing and Oracle was this week.
Yeah, I know. I saw that.
So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, this is still, as I said earlier, the more answers we have, the more questions it's generating. And in a way that's cool because, it gets you thinking, gets you talking, gets you wondering. When I start wondering or start thinking, you start getting more excited and, so that's a positive thing. But again, it is, what is this actually still? We're still trying to piece this together. And until we start reading the tie-ins and start seeing exactly what those tie-ins are, I think there's still going to be more questions for me. What exactly, how and where are the fights going to get played out? Are they going to get played out in the Convergence series itself, or are they going to get played out in the tie-ins, or is it a combination of both? Because I'm assuming the main meat of the fight sequences and which Earths die are going to be in the main Convergence story, with the tie-ins telling us about the different worlds and maybe laying down the groundwork of the fight sequences or the beginning of them, or it's one of those now the rest of the story type of things.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm very interested in this. They've hooked me in. I don't mind that the new 52 world's not in it. You know what I like about that? I think that means that if they were in there, you'd be assuming that they're the natural victors. If that makes sense, if one of their cities were in there, just because they're going to pop back after this. This adds more of a question of what this is going to be like. I definitely want at least one of these worlds to survive, just because I think it would make for interesting storytelling. Besides Earth 2. I mean, obviously, Earth 2, I want Earth 2 to survive because I love those characters right now. I'm enjoying reading them. But to me, it'd be far more interesting if one or more of the cities or different, I liked your idea of, somehow different people skew down through. I'd like to see that happen.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd like to see Asbats wind up on somebody's doorstep or something like that. Something strange that you wouldn't expect. I don't know.
Red Rain Batman. I still would like to see the vampire Batman make appearances. Because I really dig that character.
I do too. I'm very interested. It was a good story. Are you in the same place I was in, where you needed issues 0 and 1 to kind of really pull you into this? Or are you kind of okay?
Yeah. I definitely was. We're echoing the same sentiments there. Where when again I had so much stuff going through my head. Once I realized once I started getting the idea of what it's going to be, I was like, oh, okay, this is a different story. Then you start seeing the story lay out. You're like, oh, okay, here's explaining why we're definitely going to have these fight sequences, why we're going to have this. Oh, okay. So they did these, the 0 and the 1 were definitely needed to lay the groundwork and get me going into this. Now, once I start diving into, the related titles, that's going to be the final add-on saying, okay, yeah, this is cool.
So can we talk just a little bit casually about the end of the weeklies and start with the new 52 Futures End, if you don't mind?
Oh, sure.
And you know what? We won't do like a cover to cover. We'll just talk about concepts and things like that. Like, since you and I last talked, there was a major continuity change as far as who Batman Beyond is. What do you think about that? Because I'm guessing that's going to be Batman Beyond in the series.
I'm assuming that's what we're going to get as well. It's going to be old Tim. So I'm like, I'm a big fan of the guy, so I'm happy.
I'm actually really into that. I actually like the idea. I'm a big Terry McGinnis fan, so I was like, at first I was like, ooh, it's not Terry McGinnis, but then I'm like, but it's Tim Drake. How cool is that? And I like the idea that it's Tim Drake becoming Batman Beyond, not Tim Drake becoming Batman. I don't know why I like that better. I like the outfit on him. I just think it's a good look for him. I like the premise of the story that's going on here. You know, the fact that
Oops.
Brother I won. And this story is not done. And this is one of the worlds that's supposedly involved in Convergence.
Yeah, this world is in Convergence. So that's where this story is going to end. And I'm kind of curious to see if that's how finally Brother Eye gets defeated or what happens with this universe. Because it was funny because when issue 48 ended, I was like, wait a minute. This isn't the end of the story, you know. Brother I won, but they're surviving. I need more story of this, you know. And then you get the hashtag. You see, oh, okay, it's continuing on Convergence. I'm like, oh, okay. So this is going to be one of those continuing ons. And going into Convergence, I was thinking that there would definitely be a complete tie-in to these universe, and this was going to be like, you know, Convergence was going to be the catalyst to change everything, and it was going to be coming off of this future end, you know, storyline that was going to alter the universe. That's why I was thinking universe-ending event in Convergence. So when I'm reading this Future's End, I'm thinking, okay, this is the end of the universe. This is the reboot, goes into Convergence for the reboot and this type of stuff. So it's kind of neat seeing that, yes, this directly tied into Convergence, but it's not what I thought it was. It's just it's going to be a part of the Convergence story, not the driving catalyst for Convergence.
What did you think about Madison? You know, Madison being alive, it's 30 years later.
Hey.
And Adam is older. We've got Mr. Terrific. What did you think about all that and how it played out?
Yeah, I really dig that. And it was funny because when, you know, leading up to it where, you know, Tim thinks he won and he's going to be able to even be saved and not have to sacrifice himself and all this happy ending, I'm just reading it going, this ain't going to work. Yeah, and it was just one of those. I'm like, man, there's just, you can't believe in a completely happy ending anymore. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, the issue ends and he's alive and he sees all the hero statues and he's like, it worked. We won. It worked. And then, you know, and he sees, you know, and he's like, Madison, he gives to the kid. Oh, everything's great. Everything's happy. I knew you would. And you see the eye. I'm like, yes, brother, I live. I was cheering for the bad guy just because, and then just the world just slowly breaks down and you see the Terminator universe going on. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. You know, and I cheered for the bad guy. I love the fact that even though I was suspecting that was going to happen, just seeing it happen still was really cool looking. You know, it was a well-crafted story. It was a great horror ending, you know, kind of like Nightmare on Elm Street's, how they ended where you think, oh, Freddy's been defeated, and then you see, you know, the red and green striped on somebody, and you know Freddy's not dead, and someone dies. The final scene, or the Friday the 13th, where you think Jason's dead, and you see the hand come out of the water, and you know he's still alive. Same thing with Brother Eye. You thought he was dead, no, he's not. He's still alive. Matter of fact, he won.
It was interesting to see in the Earth 2 World's End story, the supercharged Green Lantern, and where that storyline went. You know, this idea of you start giving up your humanity, your life, the love of your life, whoever that person is for you, you have that person still. You lost them, they're back again. They finally know who you are, like the tragedy of that relationship between the two of them, yet he has to say goodbye in order to have enough power and to be able to stand toe-to-toe with Darkseid and hopefully to rescue the people and save this planet the best that he can. To give all that up, the tragedy of that story, and in the end, it sort of didn't work.
Well, there was a win, kind of, because some of the people got off the planet. We saw what happened to them, but also there were still people trapped on that planet. Mm-hmm. There's still people trapped on Earth, you know, that was now the new apocalypse. So we've got humans hiding on there, trying to scrounge, trying to survive, and they ain't going to. Eventually, all of the human race that's there is going to be, you know, tortured, maimed, and fates worse than death. So the heroes sort of won because they got some of the people off, but it wasn't a clean victory. And even the fact that when it ended, the people in the ships weren't sure how long they'd survive, how long, they're like, hey, Darkseid's right on our back right now. We got to go. We can't wait. We've lost Earth. We've lost the people down there. Nothing we can do. Now we just have to keep surviving. And, they kicked it into survival mode. And it's kind of a neat thing to see because you have these heroes, but you sometimes you just got to recognize, hey, I can't save everybody. I can't save, I have these people and I'm going to do what we can for them and they're going to move on. It was kind of a neat, the difficult choices people had to make, like Flash had to leave his mom, just, everybody who had to choose, okay, I can't stay here. I got to do this. I can be more of use here, even though all of these people here are going to die. I know they're going to die, but maybe I can make a difference by being over here. And it was kind of neat seeing them have to make those choices that I'm glad I would never have to make anything of that level, in my life. So reading about it in a story and having it being a well-crafted story, but also having it be so long that I'm, with these people. We've got, 25, 26 issues with all these different characters, and plus also the stuff from Earth 2 where we got to learn who these people are. So it's a neat way to really build you into them and pull you into that world. So I'm really happy with World's End.
Earth 2 ran like 32 issues. So, I mean, right. Talk about the amount of history we've got. I'm with you with World's End and echo your thoughts exactly. I kept wondering, how am I going to feel about this being a weekly? And it's a testament to the creative teams that what they did is they kept the same excitement for me that the main Earth 2 book was keeping for me from issue 1. I really enjoyed Earth 2 from issue 1 straight on through. It went through creative changes along the way. That's always a danger when, you gave this book its own world, with the exception that you had 2 of the characters on our Earth in World's Finest. But that worked really well because you had Paul Levitz telling those stories, and those were characters that basically their tethers to that world were no longer there. Enter that you bring them back and you have new creative teams, and these creative teams are now, telling a story that is the death of this world over multiple weeks. And I'm with you, the multiple weeks destruction of this world was a far richer way to do it because it matters. The struggle mattered. I wanted to see the struggle. I want to see them win. And to a certain extent they did, in the sense that they survived. I mean, they were broken up into 2 teams for this. We had our group that was zapped, but then we also have, a huge battery of people with Mr. Terrific and Power Girl and Huntress and Red Arrow and Steel and just Jimmy Olsen, the whole gang, who are actually still out there trying to find a new home. And because of the fact that they're not connected to Brother Eye now, they aren't pulled into that Future's End timeline. And that was a success. Yeah. They aren't pulled into all that now. But Brother Eye won in that end. These are now 2 distinctly separate timelines, 2 distinctly separate worlds. Super excited for that. I think this did nothing but get me excited for the Darkseid War, because as far as Darkseid goes, this made him a big bad. I mean, not just him, his whole army, his son, Barda. I know Barda's with the Earth 2 crew, but woof, the stuff that's going to happen here, I just can't wait to see what's going to happen here.
Yeah, and it's funny because you think about just with Power Girl and Huntress going back to Earth 2, you wonder, knowing what they know, was it a good call? Or should they have stayed on the other Earth and been heroes on the other Earth, or go back to their world? Which ended up, the fate that it did. If you ask them, they'd say yes, what they did was the right call, even knowing what they know. But if you're asking me, I'm like, I don't know. They had a pretty good life on the other Earth.
They connected with their family on this Earth, though. I think if they went back and they were still loners, it adds more weight to what you're saying. The fact that Huntress went back and made peace with her grandfather, and through that they connected over, joint memories of her father. Yeah. Somehow each became something more. Power Girl and what happened with her and Cal and Lois and, all that stuff. That added more. I love that the Oracle was in it, the one that we saw so recently in the Superman stories. I'm glad that they added, that kind of Watcher type character in. The ending with Hawk Girl or Hawk Woman. Is she Hawk Girl in this? Hawk Girl. Yeah. Hawk Girl with, I keep wanting to say Hawk Woman. Hawk Girl You should be proud of your son. The Flash was a hero, especially after she'd been chastising him for not standing up to the fight. But in the end, he did. He came back. In spite of everything that she thought he was, he stepped up and he was there. And he was an active part of all this. I just thought it was really, really cool, the pacing of this and the fact that they, took the opportunity to end closure to that whole story. It's funny how you can leave an open-ended ending while still putting in an awful lot of closure. They did a really good job of putting in a lot of closure for all this.
Yeah, they gave us a nice ending, but it was it was a nice ending, but it still had the room for the next growth. It still had room for what was going to happen to Earth 2 next, where the drifting through space, the next planet. How are they going to survive? Just that kind of Battlestar Galactica type of armada going through the universe to try to find a home and stuff like that. So there was a lot of stuff when I was reading that ending, looking at going, okay, we've got a couple ways this storyline for these people could go and continue on, because with how we had that society title that's coming back. Who's to say completely that they're on a planet when it all starts? There could be a society in space of them traveling to try to find the new home. Or it could be, our living planet could be their new home, or there's a lot of different ways this story could play out. So I kind of like that we did get a definitive ending where Darkseid won. And a lot of people died and some people lived, and you get this very definitive ending, but it still leaves, room for the next story to start. It's still laying the groundwork for the story to continue. And for me, that was something really cool with World's End, that I really liked how that ended, that it gave us a definite ending, but it still continues.
Thomas, it's rude to interrupt us. Sorry, that was just Thomas Wayne. Let's talk Batman Eternal. Sorry.
What the heck is
that? I'm going to say I partially called it for Batman Eternal.
In what way?
I said Thomas Wayne was behind it.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah.
And let me clarify partially. There was no way I saw any of that coming. I jest. I did throw out Thomas Wayne as somebody that I was thinking of as a potential suspect. There's no way. If you'd a million years, you'd told me. But it was off of a plan by the Clue Master, and Thomas Wayne killed everybody in the Court of Owls, and he bankrolled him. And there's no way I would have guessed that. I really liked how this ended, because you had the big reveal of it being the Clue Master. And I thought that in and of itself was enough. I mean, you really could have left that as the thing. The best part is with this issue, the revealing of how it all played out and how Clue Master teamed up with Thomas Wayne. And these are really these characters who've kind of been left behind the scenes. But then the way this turned into a battle, Batman, I loved that Batman had a moment. He broke out. He's fighting Thomas. We see the Bat family get involved in this. And you've got this great battle between him, and we see Catwoman involved and Jim Gordon. Everybody who's been a player in this starts having a piece and a part in this story. But come on, we wanted to see the battle between Batman and Thomas Wayne. The battle between Batman and Clue Master would not have been as good.
Right, yeah.
This was a great way to take a story that completely swerved. I would love if there was somebody who had some inkling that the Clue Master was behind it all along, because I didn't see that coming at all, because I think that was been the coup de grace of this story. But the battle between, I love that Bruce put the mask on, like in the street during the battle, he covered his face and he went back to fighting, and it was Batman versus Owlman. I thought that was awesome.
Well, and not only did he put the mask on, the shirt that he threw on, he drew in blood a bat symbol on it. Mm-hmm. Those were some. Batman had some really cool moments, from when Owlman's flying him through the city, and Batman pulls a chunk of glass out of his own back, because you can see it in a couple panels before he actually does it, just sticking out of there, pulls it out and jams it into the rocket pack. And mid-flight causes them to crash just to take out just to try to take out Owlman. You gotta love just that right there is a really cool Batman hardcore moment. And then he puts on the mask, he's sitting there, and you can tell he can barely stand. He's got nothing left in the tank, but he's not laying down. He's not quitting. And I was just like, man, that is awesome. But again, Jim Gordon, man, come on. I was cheering, hooping, and hollering with him going over the speakers throughout the city. Just, it was that ultimate rally cry. It was the win one for the Gipper. It was, the Dream Team speech all over again, man. Right there, this was a rally cry for a city to rise up. And, it's one of those cool moments where you're just like, oh, this is awesome. Right here, this is, and again, as much as, I've mocked Gotham and said it's a city I wouldn't want to live in just because of all the nasty, crazy destruction that happens in it. Right here is a cool moment, time to be a Gotham citizen, because you see them rise up, and once all the signals hit the sky, and I love the line where it's time for us to be the hero he's always been it's time for us to do what he's always done. We need to step up. And I cheered, just with those moments, because you see these citizens just saying, all right, let's do this. It's gut check time. And you see villains rising. You see everybody fighting together. And I was just like, I cheered. I literally just was like, man, this is awesome.
And this is something you only get out of a story that's been this long.
Yeah.
You've really got to deliver this kind of tale in order to get people really excited like this for this many characters. I love that we finally got to see characters like Talon back in this. Batwoman came into this storyline. Katana, Black Canary, and all of them felt like, Black Canary we're seeing right now in Batgirl, and we know she's getting her own series, but it still feels like that character. They were good appearances like that. It just got me more and more excited for what's going on here with these particular characters. And spoiler coming in and saying, come on, don't you recognize me? I'm Batman. I love Stephanie Brown. I am so glad. I hope they have a plan for her after this, because I'm really digging the character as a part of, I don't care, Team Batman, Team whatever. She's a character that I just want to see more of after this.
And I like just that moment between her and Tim.
Mm-hmm.
That for me was awesome, because initially you're thinking, is Tim Bluebird? Is there's maybe going to something happen? And then just that moment between him and Stephanie, you're like, oh yeah, all right. Again, another one of those hooping and hollering moments, and Barbara and Jason Todd. Just the what could have been right there was something like, wait a minute. Oh, this is nice. And then,
and dude had a shot.
What?
And dude had a shot.
Oh, he had a big time shot. That moment when they're both looking like they may die, they had the acknowledgement like, Babs, yeah, me too. Just that moment between the two of them. Of course, Talon does the save, but it was kind of a neat thing. You see that, and then later he's trying to get the nerve to either ask her out or ask her to join him and Roy or whatever he wanted to talk to her about, whatever he wanted to offer. Or, I think that would have been a neat story, those two.
Well, he wanted to go out with her, dude.
Yeah, but with Jason, you never know what level of
dude,
what is going on in his head. Though.
No, dude. I mean, I think it's very clear. Look, I'm not good at this kind of thing, Barbara, but I can't help but feel like there's something here, something between us. I don't think either of us expected it, but I mean, it's there. You're incredible, and working with you, it's made me want to be better, a better friend, a better ally, a better person. But maybe, I don't know, maybe he erased the message. Yeah. He didn't want it to go through. He was going to, basically lay it all on the line. I think it's very clear what that was, and in a very Jason fashion. Like, that made me like Jason Todd even more. And I want to see a follow. Here, I'm normally a Barbara Gordon, Dick Grayson guy. I want to see Barbara Gordon hook up with Jason Todd. I'd like to see what that looks like. Because of everything you're saying, you're right. Jason Todd's been horribly broken. That would be an interesting thing to see if Barbara Gordon could continue what she's been doing with him, or if ultimately he'll go back to being Jason.
Well, we see him leaving with Roy, and they've got their own series, so who knows where I can see this storyline continuing in that series, or reference to it, or some notion towards it. So who knows? We may get a continuation of it. I don't know.
Jason Bard and Vicky Vale. I was glad to see that epilogue and kind of a redemption of sorts for Jason Bard, where he's like, listen, I'm not going to stop you from telling that story, but like, I want to be a part of telling the true story. That was really great. And poor Thomas.
Yeah. And though the interesting thing about with Jason Bard's story, because he's no longer commissioner, and Maggie was made the acting commissioner, and Gordon's not anything. Because at the ending of the issue where he's like, hey, I've got a police scanner too. That wasn't Gordon knowing what's going on. What is Gordon's status right now? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. I loved how that ended. I actually really loved that it ended with the two of them. Bruce was there checking on his friend. The two of them are in a status quo change. Because, Bruce is like, some of my allies, I don't know if they'll recover. The two of them were kind of like, things have changed. That very much leaves us in a place for a transition. This was a great ending of an issue.
And you think about it, this leads into Endgame, which leads into then the return of Damian, timeline-wise.
Right.
So it's kind of funny because it's got a great ending where, Bruce is in the strong, and that knowing what we know, he's now about to go one-on-one with the Joker.
Are you caught up on did you read the Batman and Robin annual?
Yes.
So you're caught up on the whole Damian.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about that if we could.
Oh, okay.
Just because, what else are we going to talk about it? Damian without powers. How did you like how that played?
I actually really like that.
I did too.
I like the fact that, either Bruce recognized he's losing the powers and he needs to work it out of him, or just Batman being Batman. It's one of the sometimes where Bruce has a plan for everything, but sometimes it kind of works out, in the end. So I like the fact that he, pulled in the Justice League, pulled in the team. His friends responded, and it gave Damian that nice outlook and just that he could actually unload and, and it wasn't a taking the powers away from Damian per se, as it was allowing them to run their natural course in a controlled environment, and gave Damian yes, Damian, you just helped the Justice League moment. But it, in reality, it was hey, let's see if we can unpower him. Because even an unpowered Damian is still something formidable. It's still something massively amazing. So, it's not like he's without any skills or without any tools in his arsenal.
You know what? I really loved the annual because it was fun. What a great story, that outer space story where they're exploring the different lunar landing modules, and it turns into this, like, Batman and Robin versus aliens. But what I loved about that was Damian was like kind of helping Bruce to say the things that we all want to say. This is cool. And there was something fun about it. That's Damian at his best. And you only get that by having, you have issues where Damian's kind of the smarky know-it-all, but then all of a sudden you have those issues where Damian has this sense of wonder and excitement, like, I will go where angels fear to tread, and you see things that just look cool. This was Damian without powers, but the two of them, it's Batman and Robin in outer space. Yeah. And that's something that, like, you every so often look back at, like, some of the Silver Agey stuff with Batman, you kind of go, oh, that was cheesy and all that. No, you know what? When you modernize it and tell a story like that today, that's a Silver Agey kind of story told with a modern spin. And man, it was cool. I mean, it was just, it was one of my favorite issues I've read in a while, just because it was fun. I mean, it was really just a great, big adventure. And the story had a great beginning, middle, and ending. It was a great closure for a creative team. And when I mean creative, Pete Tomasi, but also you got to give it to Patrick Gleason, the whole team that's been involved with the Batman and Robin series in the New 52 and before. That series just really is some of the best Batman writing that's been out there. It doesn't get enough credit for how good it was. That story was like a love letter to the fans, very self-contained. So if you're like, hey, you know what, I haven't been reading Batman, what should I read? I would grab that annual, because I think that annual is just a really great, you don't need to know a thing. It's a really fun Batman and Robin story. It kind of gives you like a where everybody's at and what's going on, and gives some closure to a great concept that I'm really going to miss. I'm going to miss that book. That book has been phenomenal.
Yeah, it's funny because I immediately jumped in the last issue, not the annual. But with the one thing from that annual I really digged was when Bruce is on monitor duty and Damian is taking the old teleporter device and all that and reworking it. And Alfred's like, your father didn't want you to work with that. Well, then he shouldn't have left it lying around. Locked in multiple cabinets under security code. It's like, yeah, of course. He practically was asking me to do this.
See, that's what I love about him. He's awesome.
And of course he figures it out, and Damien doesn't go alone. I love the fact that it was a boy. That dog is awesome with Damien. Those two, it's one of those great just tag team combinations with that dog and him, because again, I like the fact that he's at the watchtower and there was already a suit ready for him.
Yes.
Bruce knew eventually Damien was going to figure out how to get there. So you have to be prepared or be forewarned. You got to be prepared for the situation, or you're just preparing for a disaster. So I love the fact that he had it ready for him so they could suit up, but there wasn't one for the dog, so the dog had to stay in the shuttle. And again, every single time Bruce gives him the order, stay there, go back to Earth, Damien, of course, doesn't follow those rules every single time. And it's that moment Damien saves the day. Damien saves Batman, gets him to say thank you. How awesome was that?
Are you caught up on Catwoman?
Yes.
Did you read 40?
I'm trying to think here. I think I did.
Well, the ending of that would have been her in a certain something. Do you know what I'm talking about?
What? I thought I read it, but I'm like, you start talking and I'll figure it out if I did or not.
Okay. She was back in the Catwoman outfit?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So does this mean we're done with her as leader of the crime family?
No, I thought that meant she was just doing double duty.
Because, I don't know. I'm going to be very curious to see where this goes.
The crime family's still around.
Right, but is she ahead of it? I don't know.
See, I took it that with her, going back to the costume and looking, she's doing double duties.
She's taking all of herself in. And
yeah, it's not just Selena Kyle. It's Selena Kyle and Catwoman. She's starting to, where she was trying to keep the universes and the world separated, she's not now. This is who she is. It's all parts. It's all in now.
Right. So she's no longer visiting the family. She is a part of the family, and all of her's a part of it. She's been separating and keeping Catwoman as kind of a separate entity, and now Catwoman's full-blown a part of this. And she wants Sionis to know, hey, you aren't just fighting me, you're fighting Catwoman.
Yeah.
So that was a message.
Yeah, this was a, not a ending of her being the mob boss, because you see at the end there when she basically, is dismissing Batman, that, hey, this is who it is, and even she's got, her and Penguin are full on, partners, and, there's definitely, it's not just Selena Kyle. It's not just the crime boss. It's Catwoman in charge of the Calabrese family. So I think that's going to take it to a whole nother level of, especially she's going to make other choices that she wouldn't have made as just a mob boss that Catwoman's going to make. We're going to see her, take a different moral stand on certain issues. And I think that's going to really turn the tide of battle, in the different mob wars and the different family wars, because she's really going to be an unknown factor. What's going to happen here? How is she going to play it out? It's not just about business now. There is going to be a moral code to it, because that was something she was always struggling with, like with allowing the drugs or allowing the guns or allowing this to come into the city. Mm-hmm. Well, now we're definitely going to see her take a stronger stance against some of those things that she says, no, shouldn't be here.
I'm glad you read it that way, because that's how I was hoping that it would be. I was hoping that that's where it was going, and I was seeing it that way, or I was maybe seeing her embracing kind of being a loner again and going against Sionis on her own. But what you're saying makes a lot more sense. I got to share one of my favorite scenes. This is back in the Calabrese townhouse. The Falcone's fine, terrified, but can't help that. So when is Mason coming for him? Tonight. You'll be long gone by then. What? You're not serious. Sionis has tried to hurt me through the family already, Antonia. I won't risk that again. Where would I go if I abandoned the family now? How could you think I would do that? You'll go wherever you went to say goodbye to Nick. And you'll go because it's an order. You're going to wish you had me nearby before this is over. I already wish it. Doesn't change that you're going. Then she's looking at Chris. She can't be my concern tonight. I know, it's terrible to serve an empire you love. The relationship between them, because then he goes to her, he goes, now, how can I help you? With the fact that he started off this whole process not believing in her, but reluctantly helping her, Now he's all in too. I really loved that shift in their relationship, and I love that we saw the respect grow through her actions. He saw her actions and he got into all that. I thought that was really cool. What a fantastic book this is. This is one of my favorite books right now. I mean, talk about a book that went from Catwoman was a middle of the stack book for me. I was getting it because I'm a Catwoman fan. It was a good book. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trashing it. It was a good book. This is a great book. I know I've said it before. This book, and I couldn't wait to talk about this on some level. I'm glad that we're just having an opportunity to casually chat about it. From the covers to the interiors to just the whole way the story's crafted, to the characters. I mean, just a really, really great cast. I can't wait for more. And this is really, talk about a series that has benefited. This Genevieve Valentine knows how to write a mean book.
Oh God, yeah. I'm glad it's sticking around and it's same creative team continuing on going forward. So it's Catwoman's been a really cool run, and it's something that I'm really dig where it's going, and I'm digging what possible futures we're going to get from her now. You know, especially as I said, I'm thinking. It's weird because you look at all the different options she can go with this, because I love the fact that even when during Batman Eternal was going on and all the villains were rising up and were helping, and there was still a lot of robbery going on. Her people were still, they were saving lives, but while they were saving lives, they were taking stuff. So she's still a thief. She's still, she's still Catwoman, and her people are still going to do what they're going to do. But again, it's going to be, kind of a different moral compass than it was. Certain things are still going to be business as usual, but other things aren't going to be. And that's that, again, when you have that moral dilemma and that conflict, those are some of the really cool moments in the Catwoman story that we've gotten recently. And I'm excited to see that continue.
You're the one that said you reread New Suicide Squad, right?
Yeah.
Because I went and did that in between our last recording when we were talking about that during the Raging Oscars. And you know what? You are so right. Issue 8, I got up to it, and I don't know if you've read that issue yet or not, so I'm not going to go real spoilery on it. But the whole team and the dynamic and the whole different relationship between the two leaders of the Suicide Squad and how that battle goes on between the two of them, but also the human drama with the various cast members of the Suicide Squad, from Manta to Harley to Boomerang to what's going on with our buddy Deadshot. The whole drama that's unfolding in that book, I think I had a brain freeze because, first of all, I'm a Secret Six devotee. I love that book and I adore it. I so think I had a brain freeze about this book because I was too busy comparing it to Secret Six instead of giving it a chance to stand on its own. I did what you mentioned on our last episode about the fact that you reread New Suicide Squad and it kind of gave you a new appreciation for it. I went and did the same thing, and you were so right. I went and read it. I'm like, I'm going to read it with just a fresh pair of eyes. What a great book this is. And what I love about it is that it's not Secret Six. It's not trying to be Secret Six. It's its own thing. And I really felt like I got it more. And I think because I'm so happy that Secret Six is back, I've kind of let that Secret Six be its thing and read this for what it is. I take it all back. I really love New Suicide Squad. I'm I'm so happy for the next issue. And at the end of the issue, it had kind of I won't spoil anything, it had kind of a look at the future of Suicide Squad, and I'll leave what that looks like out of this discussion. But I was excited to see everything that was in that image. Really, really cool stuff. I can't wait to see, because it basically said the New Suicide Squad 2015 and beyond, and they showed some really neat things that I just want to see. So it's just a great book. So thank you for that recommendation.
Oh, yeah, I'm digging Suicide. Again, it's another one that I'm glad is going forward, and we'll see what happens.
Are you caught up on Green Lantern?
Yes.
Can we talk about Hal?
Oh, man, Hal.
Tell me that wasn't totally cool. I mean, now he didn't kill Kilowog, right?
No, he just beat him up.
Right.
And he gave him a beating because it needed to be real. It couldn't have been pulled punches. It couldn't have been a staged fight. He actually had to unload because he actually had to be 100% the most wanted man in the universe. He completely fell on the sword and took the full heat of all of the injustice going on. All the negative stuff happening to the Green Lantern Corps fell completely on Hal Jordan now. And that, you sit there and you kind of always expect the hero to do something like that, to make the sacrifice, but it was really cool how it played out, because he really just took it to a whole nother level and took it to another, took it to the extreme that it needed to be for people to believe him. Now, the people close to him are going to know the truth. They're going to figure it out, because, this was so not his character. But anybody who really, really 100% doesn't know Hal Jordan, they're going to think this is real. So again, it's kind of interesting to see where Hal ends up landing, given everything that's going on.
I really love that he chose that particular weapon to take with him, the gauntlet, for him to be flying away with that right now. This is a great way to do a status quo change, because it's so story driven. We've seen how basically through their enemies, the Durlans, their whole Green Lantern Corps has been put through a smear campaign. And Hal takes it upon himself to say, you know what, as the leader, talk about a leadership role. Hal, as a leader, has said, you know what, I was the leader. It's up to me to fix this. And there's really only one way to do it. I need to embrace what's happened to us, and I need to be the one to take the hit. So that way they have a chance to be the police force that I believe in, to be the Green Lantern Corps that I signed up for, sacrifice myself for the greater good.
Yeah.
And I just really love the whole premise. I love the way the story played out. This is, Robert Venditti. I've been really digging his stuff, and I hope I'm not butchering any part of his name, and if I am, I apologize. I've been digging his stuff so much over at Exo Man of War, over at Valiant. I'm so happy with the writing and the co-writing that he's doing at DC, because, he's doing The Flash as well. He's involved with the Green Lantern. He's taken these characters and he's followed some very tough to follow. He followed Jeff Johns. That's very hard to do, on a mammoth Green Lantern run. But then on The Flash, he also followed, Brian Buccellato, who I thought was doing some great work over there. It's really just a great, Detective Comics team was writing The Flash, and they were writing an awesome Flash. It really kept these books going, and exciting and top tier books for DC. I'm really glad to see the success that he's having delivering these really cool stories. I'm excited for the status quo change. I got caught up on all the Green Lantern related books, and I'm really excited for where the Green Lantern universe is going. It was like some tearful farewells in some of these books, with where they're going. But then there's that excitement of adventure on where this is going to go. I thought they really did the fans some service in every single title, as far as, not leaving us hanging, but leaving us interested and excited and wondering where things are going.
Yeah, and Sinestro.
I can't wait to see where that book goes.
The Fear Corps now has War World.
Yeah, really, really cool stuff. And they've got a new...
Is that?
He's got a new god.
Yeah, and a new god. So that's, the Yellow Lanterns are, just kind of got kicked it up to 11 right there.
That annual was amazing.
Yeah.
I loved that there was, I gotta say, I don't know how you're feeling. Sometimes annuals in the past have been either must-reads or they've been real throwaway books. They've been kind of like fill-in stories. These new 52 annuals have been stellar. Really, really good material. The Sinestro one was another great annual. It was very well paced. I liked that it was different than some of the other ones I've read. We've had some really great annuals lately, and they're larger stories, so that's really hard to do. Did you get caught? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go on.
Did you get caught up on Multiversity?
No, I haven't yet. That's one of the ones I haven't been able to get caught up with.
Can you do me first of all, I'm going to say this. I really enjoyed it, but here's what I need you to do. I need you to get caught up on it. Then I need you to explain it to me. And I liked it. Don't get me wrong. That's not me bashing it. I like Grant Morrison's stories. I like what he does. I'm reading Nameless right now and digging it. I'm into Multiversity. I'm glad I read it. I'm very confused. But I loved it. I did love it. So, I'm saying, if you were to ask me to explain to you what I just read or what happened there, I couldn't explain it to you. But I liked it.
Here's a trick with Grant Morrison. Mm-hmm. What you do is you read it through once, then you read it through a second time, doing the art read-through. Mm-hmm. And then when you go to read it through the third time, take notes. For some reason, with his work, mm-hmm. when I sit there and I actually take notes and I do an outline and I try, it helps me get a handle on what's going on.
Okay. Can you send me your notes when you're done reading it? Because I'm going to tell you right now, I'll go back through and do notes. I will, because I like the story, and I honestly I loved the story. Actually, I'll go back through and read it again just because I love the story. I don't think notes are going to help me here. I feel like a doofus, and maybe rightfully so. But I will say this: I really loved it. So none of what I just said is a criticism. I'm just confused.
Yeah, and it's to be honest, it's one of the reasons I'm not completely caught up. Because I knew I'd have to put some time into the story. I'm like, I gotta get caught up on these other stuff, and I was focusing on that, and I had that set aside because I know I will enjoy it because I do like the style, but you gotta earn it. You gotta do some time. You gotta read through. You gotta multiple read throughs. You gotta consider it. Maybe some meditation on it, and just the various. You gotta enter the zone. When you're reading some of this stuff sometimes. And for me, that's part of the experience, part of the enjoyment is the fact that it's not just, the story isn't just handed to you, it's earned. The oldest saying, is anything given has no true value. Well, this story is something you're going to earn. This story is something that, you're going to actually make it part of you to understand and get the groove going. And that's something I always like about his stories, that I got to do that. So I will definitely get caught up on it. And when I do, I'll sit down and I'll explain it to you.
Our friend please do. Our friend David Barron did some of the color work on the last issue, the Ultra Comics one. Here's what I want to do. I actually want to sit down with that. And I want to read all of them together. Start from the beginning and read them all together. I wonder if maybe it'd read better as a novel, like a full-blown graphic novel. I am going to say again, I loved it. I really loved it. I'm just confused.
Yeah.
I really loved the journey. I liked each issue. Here's the thing. I'm kind of in the place of this. Remember we read Seven Soldiers, and Seven Soldiers read 4 separate miniseries? But then if you read them in chronological order, the way that they were released, it read like a very different story. You saw the connecting threads between them. I think I need to read this and see the connecting threads better between the books, because I think that's the part. I'm enjoying them a great deal and loving them as individual issues. I'm not understanding the overarching story, if that makes sense.
Oh, definitely.
Each issue was a great read. I loved them. I adored them, but I'm not understanding the big story. So I think I need to sit down and read it as a graphic album. I just wanted to see if it was just me. Have you read at least a few of the issues?
Yeah, I've read a few of the issues, and when I've read them, I'm like, what the hell's happening?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yet, have you enjoyed the individual issue?
Yes. Oh God, yeah. Yeah, the story laid out, the appearance, the look, everything, it's a wonderful read. But, if you wanted me to explain to you what I've read, I wouldn't be able to. Once I realized I had that's when I kind of put it aside. I just let it stockpiled. I have them in chronological order, release order. So I'll go from one to one from top to bottom, completely reread the issues I've read already, and just do a run of them. It's just finding the time to do a run of all of them together is the issue right now.
Yeah. I want to read the whole thing together just to see the connecting threads. That's the part I'm having trouble with. I think that's a better way to explain it. I really liked the issues as individual experiences. I'm very confused by the overarching connecting thread. I think that's the best way to explain it. But I loved everything that I read. I loved the artists that were involved. I think it's beautiful, beautiful books and great, well-crafted stories. And I love that he does that. Seven Soldiers is probably the perfect example. When we started talking about Seven Soldiers on the show, and I read it one way and you read it another way, I think for me what helped me there was to read it in chronological order, the way it was supposed to be read, the way it was released. By doing that, I saw the connecting threads between each of the stories and how they were meant to have this one big, long, overarching story that was in there. I never got that before. I really enjoyed the mini-series on their own and what they were doing to craft these new heroes. This, I'm having the same problem. I really loved the individual issues. I think they were really great. They were fun, great artwork, good stories. They're all afraid of this comic book. But I didn't get the overarching thread, and I can't wait to kind of go back through and read this and get, I want to get it. I really do want to get it, because I feel like a doofus. I really do feel like a doofus in a story that I really enjoyed.
Yes, I don't think you should feel bad, because
I don't feel bad. I just thought it was worth talking about because I didn't know where you were at on it. And you and I haven't really talked about it on the show. I enjoyed the experience, but it was another one of those Grant Morrison ones where I'm like, whoa, what just happened to me? And I'm glad I read it. I really am. But anyway, really, we only were going to talk about the weeklies, and there were just some cool things that happened. We could go on and on. This was an interesting month. I'm not entirely caught up yet on everything, but I'm close. There's certain titles that I still want to get caught up on, because I want this sense of closure on everything before. I do like that there were some cliffhangers, like in some of my favorite books, kind of leaving me hanging for 2 months. I want to see what happens, 2 months from now in some of these titles.
Gotham Academy.
Yeah. Great book.
Damien.
There's a lot of really cool stuff happening right now at DC. And I'm excited for the titles that are continuing. I'm also excited for the new books. I think this is the best testament I can give. My favorite books that I'm reading right now did a really bang-up job of leaving us either in a cliffhanger that I was excited for or giving me closure that made me feel good about the reading experience with that particular title.
Yes.
And that's the honest hats off that I can give to the creators of my favorite books right now. They did a really great job of leaving me in a good place.
I concur with that sentiment. I concur.
There they are, all alone except for that old character.
I would like to remind everyone about our show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388-4434 or Dr. Norge on Skype. We love having you part of the show, and certainly if we have voicemails next week, we will be happy to air them on our podcast. RagingBullets.com is the place to find out news about what's going on with the Raging Bullets podcast. We do have that feed right directly into our Twitter, so if you're a Twitter fan, please follow us on Twitter and get your information that way on where the podcast is headed. We have a Facebook page. It's a fan page. More importantly, though, we have a Facebook group community, and it really is something that belongs to that community. I love going there. They do regular Google Chats. They have links to blogs. They have news tidbits and reactions to what's going on, not just with DC, but with related pop culture in comics. But it's certainly, if you're a DC fan, it's the place to go because it's just an amazing community of people that are fans, and they're not afraid to be fans. And I'm proud to be associated with that group on some small level. I love that it's grown beyond us and it's really kind of the fans taking over. It's their community now. I like that better. It's actually far more fitting to me that they won out and it's their community. And I'm just proud that on some level, it's associated with our show. So hats off to the people there. Please consider joining it, because if you're not a part of that community and joining in on the discussions, you're missing out. And we also have Google Plus pages. We have personal Facebook and Google Plus pages. I'm on the PlayStation Network. Please feel free to add me on there. And all of these are linked in the About Us section on RagingBullets.com, or they're in the show notes. So please feel free to connect with us that way. And we are sponsored this episode, of course, by DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Jim, bundles.
Bundles galore. DCBS has given us some really cool options this time with breaking down the different new series are offering. They have 2 separate bundles with each one having different titles in them. The one bundle set is at 55% off. The other bundle set is at 65% off. Plus, they got a side bundle going on of the returning series, 50% off, as well as, if that's not enough, one more. All the returning series has a Joker variant cover, bundling them together, 45% off of the Joker variant covers. I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, I am too. That's really cool stuff. Over at InStockTrades.com, Deathstroke the Terminator trade paperback volume 1, 50% off, only $9.99. Orion Omnibus by Walter Simonson, 50% off, only $37.50. And Sensation Comics featuring Wonder Woman, 50% off, only $7.49. Hurry and act fast, because those are the deals of the week. You're going to want to make sure to jump on those this week. But if you hear this and it's after those deals have passed, go over there and check out what they've got for the new deals. Every week, they change the deals of the week, and they're offering something at a very special discount over at InStockTrades.com. We want to thank them for sponsoring our show. Jim, our next episode. Convergence. We're going to start taking a look at every episode now, the Convergence tie-ins, new issues of Convergence, really just talking about this event and basking in it. So we will be happy to talk to all of you about that next week.
Bye! On November 13th, Sean Whalen was asked to stop constantly talking about comic books.
that request came from his wife. Deep down, he knew she was right, but he also knew that someday he would find someone that would talk to him. With nowhere else to go, he appeared at the home of his childhood friend Jim Segulin. Sometime earlier, Segulin's boss had requested that he shut up about his comic books and never speak of them again. Can two grown men put out a DC Comics podcast without driving each other crazy? It's Raging Bullets, the DC Comics fan podcast. With Sean Whalen as Dr. Norge, and Jim Segulin as the Sensei of the Whatnot and the Duke of You Know. It's a spoiler podcast, so they will go in depth into the plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics they are reviewing. So if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you may better enjoy the show.